Has your body been achier than normal? Maybe you find that you're getting injured more often than you're accustomed to. There is something going on with your body, but it is not because you're just getting old. On this week's episode of the Exercises Health Podcast, we're going to explore different reasons why you may be feeling what you're feeling and what to do about it. We're going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are matching. We are wearing, if you are watching this on YouTube, you know
we are matching.
That was unintended, but yeah, I'll take it. I said we're looking pretty good today. Anyways, if you're listening to this on audio, you are missing a whole bunch, so please go check this out on YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, then you know that we have it going on today. All right, so today we are talking about a scenario that comes up a lot. And this scenario is somebody reaches a certain age mile marker. Maybe they just turned 40. Or maybe it's 50, or maybe it didn't happen until they were 60, but all of a sudden they reach this age mile marker and something within their body changes, something that more than likely they don't like, especially from a sensation perspective. They're like, oh, my knees didn't used to ache this way. Oh, my shoulder didn't used to feel this way. Oh, my back didn't used to tighten up this way. I must just be getting old. And we're here to tell you today that something is going on within your body. But it's not that you're just getting old. And so we want to explore different things that might be happening and lay out a plan that you can follow to not only decipher what's going on, but start to take action steps to not have to feel this way anymore.
That's right. And you know what? This is like a really frustrating experience for a lot of people. And whether it's like what Charlie described, where you're like, I just am achy now, or when I wake up, I have to do this whole stretching routine because I'm just getting old. Or maybe you have like serious flare-ups. You're like, I don't know what happened to me. There was no injury. But now when I turned around to help my kids out of the seat, I throw out my back. Or I was randomly walking up the steps one day and now, I blew my knee out. Yeah, getting 40 is just terrible. So if that is your story, this is the podcast for you because not only do we want to help you understand what's going on here, and again, it's not just your age, but we want to give you some action steps to actually change this so that you're not constantly going in and out of physical therapy, constantly going to Walgreens to get your new knee brace or your ankle brace and whatnot, because it is true that for the beginning of our life, we usually don't have to think about our body. It kind of just works and feels good and recovers really fast. I mean, if we all went to gym class one day and, ran too hard and was kind of sore the next day and then we were fine the following day. It was fine. Our bodies recover really fast. Or even all levels of stressors on our body, we recover really fast. That's why when you're in college, you can drink and, you're hungover for a day and you feel fine. But when you get older, you're like, dang, I just can't handle that stressor anymore. So we do know that over time, we notice that our bodies can't handle as much stress anymore. But in this case, it is not because you've turned 40. Like your body doesn't know that, hooray, it's your birthday, now we're 40, or today we're 50, or whatever your age is. But we do know that over time, your body starts losing its ability to handle stressors, whether that's a workout stressor or a life stressor, if you're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, and so there's usually a couple scenarios that we see play out with this. One is exactly what you're describing, Julie, where we wake up one day and it's like our body has decided to plot against us all through the night and say, you know what? You've been on this earth long enough feeling pretty good. Now it's time for that to change. And so it says, okay, well, we're going to tighten up your back or we're going to make your shoulder ache. And you wake up and you're like, what in the world? I didn't do anything. And now my body's just feeling this way. So that is kind of one perplex issue that a lot of people find themselves in. Another issue that they find themselves in is they start to do something that maybe they had done in the past. And they're like, what the heck? This is not at all how my body used to respond. I ran all the time. And, now all of a sudden I go for a run and it's like, my body just hates me. It must just be that I'm getting old. And the getting old story it's a really an attractive story because it's something that happens to everybody. And it's something that's completely out of our control. So we get to kind of pass off the blame onto something that we are not in control of at all and submit to the fact that, well, this is happening to everybody, so it should just happen to me as well. Now, the idea or the feeling of like, wow, my body changed when I hit this age definitely happens to a lot of people, okay? But it doesn't mean that it's out of your control. And we want to put that control back in your hands today by giving you a plan of action that you can start implementing to, again, help your body start to feel and function better regardless of what your age is.
That's right. So when we get these flare-ups, whether they're just chronic and annoying and they happen all the time, or you know, every couple months you have like a bigger flare-up, it is a sign that the stressor or the challenge from your life or your workout or whatever you were doing, the stairs, whatever it was higher than what your body could handle, specifically your muscles. So your muscles, when you do nothing to them, they get weaker after the age of 30 or 35. Somewhere in that range, you have to start doing something if you don't want to lose strength. So that means that when you were in your childhood, in high school, in college, you are naturally getting stronger. Maybe you exercised, maybe you didn't, but either way, your body was getting enhanced by you doing nothing, mostly. And then when we reach a certain age, 30 or 35, our bodies start naturally declining. It naturally starts losing strength. We naturally start losing range of motion. We naturally start losing conditioning of our muscles. And so at that age, usually, we don't normally feel anything, especially if you're not doing anything. You're just living your life. You're a busy mom or dad or whatever. You're just busy. But after a couple years of this very slow decline, at some point it catches up to you. Because at some point it's going to start getting very close to the requirements of your life. Meaning that when you go do the stairs to get to your office, you used to be a lot stronger than what the requirements of the stairs were. Over time, the stairs and your strength are going to start getting closer. And that's why they start feeling harder. Because your ability to accomplish doing the stairs is becoming less and less and less relative to the natural, normal decline that everyone has at the age of 30, 35, somewhere in there. And after a while, again, it catches up to you where you start noticing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I want you to think of a couple visuals, okay? One is exactly what you're describing, Julie, where like we have our baseline requirements of what we're needing to do every single day from a physical perspective, the baseline amount of strength and range of motion and, you know, energy that we need, okay? And like you're saying, Julie, for the majority of our life, or not for the majority of our younger life, we are well above that, okay? And then as we get into our 30s, we start to naturally creep closer to that line, okay? So more or less like we are on a downhill and that line is staying relatively the same, okay? The other scenario is as we are on that downhill, we actually start moving that line up a little bit higher, where we start to try to do more throughout our life than what we are currently doing, and our body is starting on this downhill slope, okay? That's a scenario that a lot of people find themselves in when they start to exercise again, when they've taken time off and they're going to get back into the swing of it, when they pick up a new activity like pickleball, or when they are going to be like, all right, I'm going to start walking again on a consistent basis. Their body has been on this downhill slope, and now they are raising the baseline of what's required of their body every single day, which is just immediately going to put it closer to their current capacity. And so when the requirements of your life get closer and closer and closer to what your physical capacity is, it's going to feel stressful for your body. But here's the thing, that's going to be the case whether you're 16, whether you're 36, whether you're 56, it does not matter your age. As the requirements of your day, of your life get closer to your physical capacity, it's going to feel more and more stressful for your body. So there's a couple options. The first option that a lot of people choose is they try to lower the requirements of their life. And this is where you get somebody else to do your yard work instead of mowing your own lawn. This is where you get somebody else to clean your home instead of doing the cleaning around your home. This is where you get somebody else to, pick up your grandkids instead of, picking up the kids like you did when you were younger. Okay, this is where you get somebody else to essentially do the physical things that you were used to doing in your life. So you are trying to lower the requirements of your day while still being on this downward slope. You can see that that is not necessarily the best option when we're thinking about our long-term continued ability to do things, okay? Because we can only lower the requirements of our day so much until it's just like, well, the requirements of my day are essentially sitting on the couch and not doing anything, because anything above that exceeds my physical capacity, okay? The other option is to try to start to mitigate to lessen the downward slope, okay? It doesn't mean that we can completely reverse it, all right? But if you can flatten it out as much as possible, now all of a sudden, you are going to get more of a gap between your current abilities and what life is asking for you. And once you're able to flatten it out, then you can maybe actually start to ramp it back up. I mean, Julie, how many women do you work with that come in their 50s, and after 6 months, a year of working with you, they are stronger at that point than when they started?
All of them.
Yeah, that would be a sign that, hey, they're actually starting to slope it upwards, okay? Now they are fighting the natural decline, and they are doing so successfully. And because of that, they are extending the gap. They are widening the gap between what their body's capacity is, what their capabilities are, and what's being asked of them on a daily basis.
That's right. So the big picture here is we want to encourage you to build the capacity of your body. We want to encourage you to build the strength and function of your muscles, because when we do that, we're able to handle more. We're able to, hire a lawn service because we want to, not because we have to. We're able to, have these choices, and all while knowing at the same time that every year that passes by, we're on a steeper and steeper decline. So keeping up your resistance training. We're going to teach you how to do this, but we want you to get this principle to start with, and not decreasing your frequency. I was working with this woman, and it was clear that her life was requiring more than what she could handle, because every week she would come in all broken down, and she was like, well, I used to 10 years ago strength train 3 days a week, and now that I'm older, I should only do it once. And I said to her, well, you're on a decline. So if anything, you need to keep up the 3 days a week. Your biggest decline probably happened when you went from 3 days a week to 1 day a week of challenging your body and building your body. And so at every year that goes by that you are not strength training, or you're not keeping up your strength training, or not building your strength training, you are kind of giving in or increasing that decline. So again, we can never stop or reverse the decline. But there is a significant reason why some 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 40, 50, any year-olds can be, wow, you are in great shape. You do not have flare-ups. Or, wow, you operate 20 years older than you really are. You are limping around like you are, many years older than you should be. So we know the decline is happening, and the one way for us to try to flatten that decline or lessen that decline, and then that is the decline of the conditioning of your body, is to be strengthening it through strategic exercise.
Absolutely, which leads us right into the primary recommendation that we have for you is you need to be doing your strength training. You need to be doing your resistance training. Yes, doing cardio is fantastic. However, the thing that is going to give you the biggest, most noticeable gains from your effort with your exercise into your life is going to be improving your strength, increasing your strength, doing your strength training, doing your resistance training, okay? Our recommendation for this is if you can do it 4 times a week, do it 4 times a week. If you want to do it more, do it more. But really, if you feel like your body is on a natural downward slope, aim to get it in that 4 days a week. It will make all the difference in the world when you're able to do it consistently and do it in a way that actually feels good for your body, which is really where the tactics of this episode are going to come into play. But we need you focused on getting your strength training and really prioritizing that.
Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, Julie and Charlie, I have exercised in the past and actually it made me flare up. That is the big thing we're going to talk about, is the how. What Charlie said, the tactics. Because it's not just, showing up at the gym and doing some stuff. There are very specific ways that you need to be strength training so that it is definitely building your body and not questionably breaking it down. When you go to the gym and you're like, yeah, I pretty much am injured now. We don't ever want to see that. We want to see that every single workout, you're pushing your body in the right direction. And good news, if you're listening to this now or like in a week of this releasing, you can actually join in on our live group coming up. It is the One Workout Away Challenge. This is actually strictly strength, so it's perfect for this topic. We're going to be teaching you how to increase your mobility and flexibility in a really safe way. Also, we're going to be focusing on how to build strength without having those negative repercussions. So if you want to jump in on that, definitely join us by going to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com/OWA. And this live Facebook group will be starting on Sunday, March 3rd. But let's jump into the 4 Exercise for Life principles that everyone needs to be following, especially if you're blaming your age for the reason you're having all these body flare-ups.
Exactly. These really are the keys to making sure that you can build your strength in a safe and sustainable manner and keep coming back to do your strength training day after day, decade after decade. So the first Exercise for Life principle is to use your symptom-free full range of motion, okay? This means when you're doing an exercise, you should not notice any pain, any discomfort, any pinching, popping, zinging, no stretching feeling while you're doing the exercise. The only thing that you should be aware of from a sensation perspective is your muscles squeezing and, after doing enough reps, your muscles fatiguing. That's it. There shouldn't be any jointy feeling or anything, no nervy feeling, and again, no stretchy feeling happening while you're doing the exercise.
This one's really big. Even if you feel like you do your range, you're like, well, Julie and Charlie, I could not go very far. It didn't even look like the right exercise. We want you modifying your range in this way, and this is the one of the best ways to make sure that after your workouts, you're feeling really strong, healthy, more energized, and ready to attack your day. Exercise for Life principle number 2 is going to be observing and maintaining your moving and non-moving parts. Now, some people like to think of this as form. We're not keen on the word form because form seems like everyone needs to look the same when they exercise. But every time you do an exercise, you should notice that there's a certain part of your body that moves for the exercise, and there's a certain part of your body that doesn't move for the exercise. As you go through your whole set, maybe you're doing 10 reps, I don't know, but the whole time you are moving the part that you wanted to move, and you are not moving the part that you don't want to move. The reason this one's so important is that a lot of times as people get tired, they start to move their non-moving part more, and when they do this, this leads to injury a lot of times. And if it's not injury, a lot of soreness. And so just make sure that as you move through your range of motion, your symptom-free, full range of motion, you are trying to continue to maintain the moving part and keep the still parts or the non-moving parts not moving.
Now, Exercise for Life principle number 3 is to move slowly, okay? Again, a lot of times when people hear this, they think about they want a certain time or a certain tempo that they're going to move, and really it's about maintaining control of your moving and non-moving segments. Only moving the parts of your body that you want to move and keeping the rest of your body still, maintaining a speed at which you can do that, and you can stop your motion at a moment's notice. So anytime something in your body says, we need to change, we need to alter, or we need to stop altogether, you don't need to wait until the end of the set. You don't need to wait until the end of the rep. You don't need to move 3 inches further. You can stop at that moment and either change how you're doing the exercise or stop the exercise altogether. This move slowly piece is really key to not only controlling your moving and non-moving segments, but also maintaining your symptom-free full range of motion.
Now, the last exercise for life principle number 4, is to focus on the muscle squeeze. So often when we go to a gym or we go do a workout, we're focused on everything that's outside of our body. And we expect for the inside of our body to change. So we actually want to be focusing on the inside of our body. So instead of counting reps or watching the TV or focused on your music, you're going to internally engage and think about squeezing the muscles you're trying to use as you're doing the motion. You also can think about how that joint is feeling, because every time you move, you're going to be moving a joint. So you're focused on how the joint is feeling, but really trying to highlight that muscle squeeze to take your workouts to being more like a work in.
Awesome. So these 4 exercise for life principles, again, these are the keys to making sure that your strength workouts are building your strength in a way that you can keep coming back to them, keep doing them day after day, decade after decade. You leave feeling stronger, more mobile, more energized from your workouts instead of feeling achy, broken down, beat up, sore, injured from your workouts. One other thing that you can add in addition to this strength training, is muscle activation techniques. So often when people are feeling more and more achy as years go by, more and more beat up just from general life as years go by, yes, you need to increase your strength. Yes, you need to make sure that you're exercising. But if you're feeling like, well, if I try to do anything, my body just perpetually gets worse, or I'm doing stuff, but there's actually something a little bit more uncomfortable going on with a specific area of my body, that can be a telltale sign that you have muscles that are not working as well as they should. And so when you go and you do your workouts, your body is only defaulting to using the muscles that are working well, causing them to overwork. And then in response to that, your body feels tighter, more achy, more sore versus stronger, more mobile, more energized. Okay, so with muscle activation techniques, we're able to identify where in your body you have these underactive muscles and get them working better. It's one of our specialties here that we work with people in person at our studio at Muscle Activation Schaumburg in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. So if you're in our area and want to try out MAT, definitely give us a shout. You can find out more information and schedule your initial consultation and assessment with us by visiting us online at matschaumburg.com. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that feels like with every passing year, they're feeling their age more and more, and every single issue that they're experiencing is simply because they are getting older? Share this episode with them so they can understand that they have more control than they are led to believe, that they can actually do something about what they are experiencing, and it largely stems from getting stronger, getting better conditioned, and making sure their muscles are working the way they're supposed to work. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you listen to us on, and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.